And the market is down today. And I think the biggest news, of course, is, like I mentioned earlier, Starcoms and the rumors around a merger with MTS and Multilinks. First of all, maybe get your perspective on how Starcoms traded today. What I'm hearing is that its stock traded flat, no change. So it appears that some people are not moved by the headlines just yet.
Well, there really are some interesting perspectives to the news on Starcoms. It would ordinarily have been the sort of news that will move the stock, but there's really no downside anymore where Starcom stocks are concerned. And however, there's also the perspective of the investigation going on right now as to the process by which it came about to be listed. It may be said to be a professional perspective as to whether the process should have been the way it went or some other way. Details of this will emerge when the SEC finish up with the questions that are being asked around. But I think that may have been something to water down the interest of investors in the stock.
Well, like you did mention, yes, there is that investigation around its IPO in 2008. But first of all that said, like you mentioned, there's really very little downside. If you take out that investigation and assuming Starcoms remains a listed company, give us your thoughts on the upside potential for this deal, because we're talking about 3 companies coming together and, of course, $200 million also on the table. That's what we're hearing.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, that's where the upside is. And I've always said this about certain stocks on the market being undervalued. Particularly when you look at the assets and the potential which they have to offer. And if you look at the telecom space in Nigeria, you start to wonder what's happening with the CDMA market. Why aren't they gaining any ground over the GSM players? And I think where Starcoms is concerned, it just may be about the data play and with voice coming as an add-on. And I think that way when I realized that Multilinks and MTS, first of all, MTS has not been in operation for a while, so I guess the most important asset there is its license. Same thing for Multilinks. They have been in operation though, but they do have some interesting capacity, especially in terms of infrastructure, which is available. And perhaps someone somewhere has sat down and calculated the potential in combining all these assets together, licenses and infrastructure, and what kind of dominance it can have in the telecom space.
All right, Starcoms has made losses since it was listed in 2008. You just mentioned MTS hasn't been in operation for a while. What I'm hearing is that the new company, which I'm hearing will be called Capcom, would have a million voice customers and 140,000 data customers. Now, is that something that excites you if you're an investor putting in $200 million into 3 companies that still need to combine?
Well, those figures, the subscribers, voice and data, are pretty small when you compare what the market is right now existing in Nigeria, about 94 million subscribers.
Right.
And even when you look at the potential for growth. However, I want to believe that they're probably betting on technology, for instance, in terms of what can be applied and how that can attract new subscribers. As you and I know, practically all phones being sold today are smartphones, with internet capacity, with Wi-Fi capacity. And it's a lot clear to most of the voice operators too that data is beginning to gain. And whatever may be lost in terms of discounting on voice prices, they can gain from data as more and more people take that. So that's an interesting perspective for the telecom space.
But what about the figure, $200 million for data? It sounds like a big number for me. Do you think the potential for data is that great in Nigeria?
Well, it is a pretty big figure, you're right, but you want to compare that in the context of the value of what infrastructure you already have on ground.
Right.
Multilinks has significant fiber optic capacity, Starcoms also has quite a lot in terms of base stations. There certainly is some value in all that. And that's not counting the potential. Nigeria itself has attracted a lot of cables, underwater cables, and there is a lot of capacity for internet linking up through the country. And you just may not be able to understand at this time, but the capacity for Nigeria to play a role in terms of a hub for a lot of data to be pushed through it and through those cables onto the internet. I think the potential is great for anybody who's going to do data. The thing here is what sort of calculations have been done to come up to the $200 million. There's still limited information at this time,
right.
But I'm pretty sure that a lot more information is going to come out to play in the next few weeks.
Well, of course, it hasn't been announced on the stock exchange, so clearly we're still in the realm of rumors at this time. But first, I want to get your thoughts on what Starcoms can be for a portfolio investor at this stage. What would you be looking for to make that play on Starcoms now? Because clearly, like we mentioned, the downside is pretty much zero if you're buying a company that is 50 kobo right now.
Yeah. Well, you said something interesting. It hasn't been announced at the stock exchange, but then it was in the business papers today.
Right.
So it's in the open space in terms of what the intentions are and what the likely combination will be. For any portfolio investor, the first thing is perhaps to verify that. And I guess it's pretty clear for those with an ear to the ground in the telecom space that these three companies have been talking. There are quite a few other regulators beyond the NSC through which they have to go. There's the Nigerian Communications Commission, which must approve. And there's also the Securities and Exchange Commission. So there's a lot that can be verified. At 50 kobo per share, that's base price for that stock. It can only start to go up, but that is if this works. So the expectations are to see in terms of the seriousness, the supports the regulators are going to give this combination. I think if it all comes together, if it all works, then it's just all the way up for Starcoms. It's in that perspective, it's undervalued at this stage. It's something with a lot of potential. And at 50 kobo, hey, it's going to be pretty inexpensive to add on to a portfolio. And it's a bet one may want to take.
Okay, clearly we still need to get a lot of information out there, but I mean, let's talk about what we know. $200 million. We know that Starcoms right now is valued at just over 3 billion naira. So clearly we're looking at an investment that is almost about 10 times the value of the company right now. That to me already speaks of significant dilution for those holding Starcoms right now.
Absolutely right. That's another perspective to it. But that also plays in another space. If you've got one single core investor holding that large percentage of the company, that reduces the amount of free float available in the market. Simple supply and demand mechanics tells you that Starcoms shares will not be so easily available in some time to come. And because those who are the major investors will be holding on to them, and expectedly the price should go up.